Hi, my name's Kim Arnold and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm participating in the Mixed Media Frenzy YouTube Hot. Links to everybody participating is in the description below. This is the layout we're lifting and this is the layout that I have done using the layout as an inspiration. So I'm going to start with a distressed oxide background. I am using a combination of the Salvaged Patina, which is the new Tim Holtz colour, and the green I'm using is Twisted Citron, and I'm also using some splashes of Faded Jeans, which you will see happen. The texture paste I'm using on this layout is a icing paste, Prima icing paste in vintage gold. So you can see that have used the packaging technique to put down a strip of colour. So in the inspiration layout, there is a strip of colour running down through the layout. So I'm doing something similar for my layout. So I've used the packaging technique to lay down the blue first. I need a bit more blue. So you just squish it down onto a piece of soft plastic, add some water, and then use that plastic piece to apply the Distress Oxide ink to your layout. The cardstock I'm using is Vicki Boutin Foundations Paper, which I love for mixed media. I haven't added any gesso or anything. It wasn't necessary for this layout. I'm just putting the oxide ink directly onto the background. So I'm just working away with getting that blue strip down. And then I'm going to I'm moving on to the green. So I'm using the same technique. As I said, this is Twisted Citron that I'm using. Add water to it and then use the packaging to just move the green around the blue. So I don't mind if there's a bit of overlap, but I want to keep some of the blue as blue and obviously the green as green. Now it's a really bright lime green. It's gorgeous. I love it. And I'm also using some splattering to break up those solid colours. I did something similar with the Salvaged Patina in the blue. So I'm just sort of moving that green around and building up a really nice column of colour down the layout. Going back to blue, just to add some on the other side of the green, also intensify the colour a bit down through, and also break up some of that green because it is very bright. Okay, so I'll just keep working at that for a bit. Some splatters, some packaging technique. And use the brush, like a wet brush, to help move that ink around a bit more so you can blend the colours together, have some splatters and soften the edges up. So the packaging technique is a great way to get the colour onto the page and then use a wet brush to help move it around once it's down so that you can get it where you want it to be. So now I'm going to use a Pink Fresh chevron stamp, which I absolutely love this stamp. It comes as a 4x6 size and then it breaks up into smaller bits. So I've chosen one of the chevron shapes and I have put the Distress Oxide in the Twisted Citron onto it, then used a wet brush to move that ink around so it's very wet, and then stamped with it. So I have put 3 at the bottom, which you can see I'm just doing now, and then I'm going to put 3 at the top. And it just gives a little bit of structure in the mixed media background with the really soft inks that I did originally. So that's dried now, and now I cut a sunburst design using my Silhouette Cameo 4, which is what I have. It was a Christmas present and I love it. So I'm just seeing how my sunburst design, so I'm going to use 6 of the rays from that sunburst on this layout, and then I'll use the actual sunburst design on a different layout sometime down the track. And I also use the silhouette to cut some of the pink kites because today I'm using a couple of photos of my nieces out flying kites. So they've been going through lockdown in London. So they've been enjoying the opportunity now to get outside and be able to enjoy flying kites. And this is just on a spring day in London, so it's still pretty cold. So now that I sort of laid things out, I realised I needed to bring that column over a bit wider. So I've used exactly the same technique just to thicken out that blue. So it's sort of going to curl down behind the photos once they're on. So you'll see a fair bit of the mixed media to the left of the photos once this layout's finished. But I just wanted to not have it completely separated, the mixed media column completely separated. So I extended that. Now I've just put it away to the side to dry. And while it dries, I am going to back some of my photos. So these are printed on my selfie at home, and they work out about 3 by 2 inches, these photos, 3 by 2 inches each. So I'm backing them with tissue paper, which is just gift tissue paper. I do like the effect it gives behind the photo. I can also, sometimes I use gauze, but on this particular layout I have used the tissue paper, and then I'm putting some chipboard pieces behind the photos, which will make them nice and sturdy, and lift them up a bit from the layout when I stick them down. Trying to be good about remembering to put my pin into my glue. If you are interested, I use art glitter glue with a fine tip dispenser, and I do really like that glue. So now that I've seen where things are going to sit, I'm going to add the texture paste. So I'm using a Tim Holtz dotty stencil for the background, and I'm just randomly putting some of the icing paste, so gold icing paste, through this fine dot stencil onto the background. I love icing paste. It dries super fast, so be warned, make sure you clean your stencil and your palette knife off quickly, because it doesn't take very long to dry and it will ruin your stencil. And then I've just used a wet brush and a bit of water into some Faded Jeans Distress Oxide, and I'm just splattering that round onto the background, and you'll see in the close-up photos at the end, it just gives a little bit of a different blue colour mixed into that background. I let that sit for a bit and then pat it off with some paper towel. And my background is ready to go. So now, to ensure I get my sun rays in the right position, I stick the full sun ray piece, well, not stick it, but hold it in place, and then glue the rays that I'm using on the layout through the background so that they're in the right position, and then use a bit more glue to stick them down properly, and do the same with the top. So that just makes sure they sit in the right place. So that will be done, and lift that background piece off. Okay, I'm going to sit my photos here, and I fuss around a bit with where I'm going to put the kites, and I end up changing those for the final layout. I've decided to back the photos with some of this really pretty paper. So the papers and products that I'm using on this layout are all from my March Hip Kit Club kit. And extra. So I subscribe to the main kit and the embellishment kit. So I'm using the March one for this layout. I'm very pretty spring colours in this one. So I'm just distressing that paper that's going to sit behind my photos, and then stick the photo which is on the tissue paper, chipboard, and then the pattern paper. So when I put those on the layout, I decide that I want to get a frame. So I will be finding a frame out of one of the embellishment packs. This is a great way to use frames. Like, you don't have to have your photos exactly sitting within the frame. So use my T-square, make sure I get that frame straight. Then I can have other elements crooked around it. But if my frame is straight, the layout will look square and proper. And I'm sitting those photos just within that frame. As I said, frame, that's a great way to use a frame. You don't have to have a photo sit exactly behind the frame. You can use the frame just to create a landing spot for your photos so they look grounded. Okay, so I'm looking at some other pieces. So there's a nice chipboard title, Enjoy Every Moment, that I'm going to sit below the photos. That's going to look great. And now I'm just going to go through all of my different embellishments and place those around the photos. So there's heaps in this kit, so I'm just having a look at what's around. I did play with putting some of the acetate strips to the top and bottom of the photo to mimic what's gone on in the inspiration layout, but I didn't end up deciding to go with that. So I've been looking at some of the acetate tags, but I don't end up going with that either. And I end up moving on to some die cuts to create a cluster of flowers and embellishments around the layout, which curls from the right hand side round to the left hand side. So a selection of flowers and leaves and a little pink heart up there. So these die cuts are really cute, and I'm just layering these under the elements that I've already picked and under the frame and photos around that and around the photo cluster. Okay, once I get everything down where I want it to be, and I'm pretty happy with that, I am going to start sticking stuff down. Just with the bird die cut, I decided I wasn't really keen on the white border around it, so I actually just use a pair of scissors and fussy cut around the bird so it just doesn't have as big a white border around it, so I've done that. And then I'm just going to work at sticking all the elements down. So when I stick the flowers down, I'm sticking most of them flat, but the leaves I put a bit of chipboard under and pop those up a bit. And the bird, I've put a little bit of chipboard under him so he sits up off the layout as well. And then the rest of the flowers I have stuck flat. So there is quite a bit of dimension in this layout because, of course, the photos are popped up on chipboard. There's the chipboard frame. And then, as I said, I've popped up the leaves. The kites I just stick down with some of the glue. Again, I use the art glitter glue just down the center line of the kites. So the actual bow parts are loose, and so are the sides of the kite. So just down the center line and down the string is where I put the glue on the kites, and then they're stuck down. Then I'm going to move on to, I'm happy with all of that. It's all looking good. So I'll move on to the journaling. Just use my T-square ruler to get some straight lines. And I will note that I am possibly the messiest scrapbooker ever because it is a tip next to my layout there, so sorry about that. So just draw some pencil lines in, then I'm just using a grey fine tip pen to put my journaling. I often use grey because it's dark enough to read clearly but not as dark as black, and just draw some lines in underneath my journaling. So I'm happy with that. Now, I was going to leave it at that, but then I decided that this pattern paper, which I showed you there, had some really cute elements in it that I could fussy cut out and create like these little diamondy sort of shapes, or mandala shapes, I don't know what you call them. And I thought that they would work really well on the sun rays. So I fussy cut some of those and I've just stuck them down directly onto the layout with glue. You will see in the close-up photos I also added some jewels to this layout after I had finished recording, and a sticker below the journaling, another chipboard sticker below the journaling. But I am getting very close to done now with what I show you in the video. So it will be followed up with some close-up shots of this layout. If you haven't already and you enjoy my videos, please subscribe to my channel below. And if you like this video, please click like. That would be much appreciated. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments and I'll come back to you as soon as I can and answer any questions that you may have. Again, I'm using the Hip Kit Club for March for this layout, and this is the Mixed Media Frenzy YouTube hop, so please go along, visit everybody else's layouts and see what they've done with their inspiration from this kit. So I'll leave their inspiration from this hop. So I'll leave you with this. Enjoy, and I look forward to seeing you at my YouTube channel again soon. Thank you.